Good day everyone, so I'm here on r/Kokomi mains and someone posted a clip of Zajef talking absolute nonsense. Let me just quickly play the clip so that you can get a bit of context.
Dude, why can't Kokomi heal as good as YaoYao, man?
And honestly, this is not really even a question you should be asking if you're playing Nilo Bloom teams, but before I get into what I really want to say, I'd highly encourage any one of you watching to go to r/Kokomi mains, it's all in the description by the way, and watch the full clip here. I also encourage you to check the VOD here from Zajef with the timestamps that I'll put in the description so that you can get a bit of a better sense of what's actually going on. TLDR, he is playing a Nilo Bloom team with Nahida and YaoYao at level 50, and he's frequently dying, and he blames Kokomi for not being able to heal as well as YaoYao. Obviously, there's some flaws with this way of thinking and getting a conclusion. Most notably, his Kokomi is not fully built, and obviously, if you're running into the Spiral Abyss, you want all of your characters to be at least at level 80, because if you don't do so, the breakpoints in terms of the health pool that your characters have will just be naturally set lower, and this means that your margin for error really decreases significantly. So you can imagine an extreme example where you're running C6 R5 healer Kokomi, but you're running with a level 1 Amber in the Spiral Abyss. There's no amount of healing is going to save you if your breakpoints are too low, and I think that is exactly what sort of happens here in the background. He just simply does not have the health pool to tank such that he can heal up with his jellyfish or even with YaoYao in this case, ironically enough. So that is my response to this clip and to what we're seeing here. It's completely misleading, but I think there's even more going on here. So after watching quite a bit of Zajef's gameplay, it's quite obvious to me that he does not understand how to play Nilo teams, and I want to break down just a bit of his gameplay as well as show you two examples of how to properly do this with Nilo teams, and then you'll start seeing that the question of who's the better healer between Kokomi and YaoYao is absolutely irrelevant for running a team like this. So this is really what I want to sort of get at. So this is not me trying to bash Zajef for having a very odd opinion, in my opinion, but more so an opportunity to sort of help you get better with your Nilo gameplay. So let's just sort of see what he does. So right off the bat, his Kokomi's got 10k HP out of 24. So the first thing you'd want to do is cast your Bakekurage, because that will just instantly heal you up for quite a bit. But he does not do that. He just dashes straight to the corner here. You do have time to cast your E, your jellyfish right here on this enemy, and dash to the corner. It's not a problem. Here he's wasting a bit of time on the header. I'll show you how to do this more optimally. He's also then triggering Nilo's elemental burst, and now he's sort of doing all sorts of things. He's precasted Nahida's way too early. He's putting up Kokomi right here, and immediately there's a big problem. So hopefully you've already kind of noticed it. But yeah, he is running out of Dendro very quickly, and this is the problem if you've got YaoYao here. If you had instead just traded in YaoYao for Kole, this would have been infinitely better. Now, the thing is, Zajef's going to go on here, he's going to continue playing and so on, but already from my perspective, there's so much that's being done wrong here. The order of execution, how you're applying your elemental skills and burst, everything is just out of whack. He gets hit here with Nahida. You can see the positioning and everything is just absolutely horrible. So how should you actually be playing this, and why does this then lead you to the conclusion that the healing is kind of irrelevant? Well, let's look at a couple of examples. So the first one that I want to show you is against Triple Kinky, just to demonstrate to you what the correct flow is when it comes to playing Nilo Bloom teams. So the idea is that you cast your elemental skills, and then what you'll do is you'll use your elemental burst to iframe the damage whilst being healed up by Kokomi's jellyfish. So this is the natural way in which you want to play, and of course we've got Kole here to ensure that the Dendro production is not sort of overtaken by the combined Hydro of Nilo and Kokomi. So you can see here I'm just iframing all the way. It's pretty comfy. So we've taken about out half of the enemy's health. By the way, this is all C0 units, and you can see it's just so easy. I'm just iframing, bursting as I need to. I'm using Nilo's E ability here because it's got very strong resistance to interruption, and there we go, that is the end of this run. So with a C0 sort of Nilo team, this is very easy to achieve, and as you've noted, all my units practically had most of their HP up. None of them are below half health. And this is the key. If you understand this sort of gameplay style, it becomes very, very obvious that the question of healing is irrelevant. So let's now specifically look at this chamber, which I just showed you a moment ago on Zajef's Twitch stream. So basically, this is what you want. So if you were running Kokomi, you could easily just do this, cast your E ability, because the monsters are not going to move. You top up your Kokomi, again increasing the margin for error because you now have a larger HP pool. I made a slight little positioning mistake because I went way too far here with Nahida. So when I tagged the enemies, I just couldn't tag that enemy right at the back. But hey, short mistakes were made. Here is Nilo, and by the way, I'll show the builds at the end. But you can see I'm just using my abilities. If you had the key on Nilo, you would have hit the enemies instead of standing here at the back. Doesn't really matter. So now we're going to use Kole, ensuring that the Dendro core production is not going to be overtaken by the Hydra units. And so if we then have more Dendro onto the enemies, we can guarantee bloom ownership for our Hydra units, which have more EM in this case. So that's kind of what you want to do. And then, yeah, this is just what we did earlier. We iframe using Kole's elemental burst, Nahida's elemental burst. We get topped up. You can see here both Nahida and Kole now have full health because they were topped up by Kokomi's jellyfish. They had invulnerability frames, and this is the key to how you're playing Nilo. So I've avoided all the damage from the cores and the enemies. Now I'm going to go to my next unit. Here is Nilo. The jellyfish is not active, but I don't really need it for a 56k HP tank on the field, so it really doesn't matter. Here's Kokomi. She's just going to be here, helping again with the Dendro core production and the healing. There we go. We're going to position our jellyfish, so just took a bit of a time to do so. If you're running sacrificial fragments, of course you can reposition again if you find that your positioning was not good. This is one thing that Zajef also kind of didn't do, but in any case, so yeah, here we go, and we're going to go back to college just to ensure that the Dendro core production doesn't get killed entirely by our Hydro. But yeah, that is sort of how you do it. It's pretty simple. So the battle plan of using your E abilities and then iframing throughout the bulk of your damage window, that is how you play Nilo teams, and it's so comfy. You can see here, none of my units were even close to sort of dying. When it comes to these enemies in the middle, I first tag all of them, then I would not use Nahida's elemental burst right away. I'd focus on getting all of my other skills on the field, so you'd wait for where the enemies are positioned, you'd wait for all of these little monsters and constructs that they're summoning to first get onto the field. So you can see here, I'm just starting to channel my abilities. Here's Kole, once again doing some cool things, and now I'm going to use my elemental burst. So at this point you can now tag all the enemies once again with Nahida if you wish, or like me, if you find yourself in a position where the enemies are going to drag you and you're sort of going to lose your footing and grounding, you just iframe it. That is as simple as that, and then you can also tag the enemies afterwards. But in this case I just simply opted to use all my elemental burst. Once again, you use Nilo's elemental burst not for damage, but to get your Hydro to the enemies that are outside of your ring and outside of Kokomi's jellyfish range, and you can do so quite easily in an AoE area. Look at that. And now we go back here to Kokomi. So I've used all of my iframes, all of my abilities, and I've just taken care of the bulk of the enemy damage. This is how you play Nilo teams, and this is why we recommend Kole. If you're running YaoYao on the field, you just don't have access to consistently keeping up the Dendro, and then that would obviously lead you to a bit of a damage loss. So this is why we recommend this team. And as you can also see on the clock, I've got more than enough time left. If you look at Zajef's VOD review, he also cleared the first half in about a minute or so. So none of this is beyond the realm of someone with a relatively decent account. An AR60 F2P player can easily do this. And as you can see now I've got more than enough time to slow down what I'm doing and battery up my team, and then proceed to the triple Kenki run that I sort of like showed you earlier. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly skip forward here because I do exit the Spiral Abyss, and I want to show you the builds on this team. So here is Nahida, obviously not at full level 90, doesn't really matter. She's using the Witsif because I had one lying around. Talents 166, really doesn't matter. Constellations obviously at 0, and then you just have the normal artifact sets and so on. I'll just quickly forward this a bit faster. There we go. So here's Nilo. Weapon, as you'd expect. Talents, pretty average. Constellation 0, and so on. So everything that I showed you is not outside the realm of possibilities. For people that are dedicated Nilo mains and Kokomi mains, this is pretty much well within reason. You can use the Ocean Youth Clam, that other artifacts, it really doesn't matter. And of course, the star of the show is Kole, because she's the one that enables your Dendrocore production to be on field and to be consistent. This is the key power to having Kole, even at Constellation 1. So yeah, that is what I wanted to show you, how to properly play Nilo teams. And once you've built your units properly and everyone's had their talents leveled up properly, you can then make the correct conclusions, unlike what Zajef's doing here. And then you'll come to understand that from my perspective, the whole idea of Kokomi versus YaoYao is just so stupid. It's not one versus the other. It's all about how you play your Nilo Bloom teams. Alright, that's it from my side. Cheers.